You won't believe how deep this drama goes, but let me tell you how it all started. It's not just about a little disagreement or a random beef. No, this one is personal and it's been brewing for years. The two main players in this mess, Tamar Braxton and Kandi Burruss. Now, if you've been following these ladies, you already know that Tamar isn't exactly shy about voicing her opinions, especially when it comes to Kandi. The tension between them didn't just appear out of nowhere. Tamar's obsession with Kandi has been clear from the start, and it's not just because of their time on Celebrity Big Brother. This whole thing started years ago when Tamar and Kandi were both part of the Escape Tour. Tamar at the time felt like Kandi was always being shady toward her, and she couldn't figure out why. She even accused Kandi of not liking her for no reason. But Kandi, she saw things differently. From her perspective, Tamar was the one causing drama. Kandi claimed that Tamar would bring people backstage who had previously been rude to her. And for Kandi, that was just too much to handle. It's not like Kandi was the type to get caught up in petty drama. She was there to perform and do her job, but Tamar kept stirring the pot. Tamar was quick to assume that Kandi just didn't like her, but for Kandi, it felt like Tamar was the one holding on to unnecessary grudges, creating tension where there didn't need to be any. But wait, this is where it gets interesting. Tamar wasn't the only one who had things to say. Kandi finally spoke up during an interview, and this is when things really started to heat up. She straight up accused Tamar of being insecure. Kandi suggested that the reason Tamar kept talking about her, dragging her name into drama, was because Tamar was jealous of her. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could this even be true? I mean, these two are both successful in their own right? Well, that's where it gets wild. Kandi said that Tamar had been trying to sabotage her ever since they both appeared on Celebrity Big Brother. Tamar had been playing this victim card, but according to Kandi, there was no real reason for the beef other than jealousy. Now, it wasn't like Kandi was innocent in all of this either. I mean, who would want to sit back and let someone talk about you nonstop without responding? Tamar was out there dragging Kandi's name every chance she got, but Kandi, she wasn't having it anymore. She started to really speak out, calling Tamar out on her behavior. And let's not forget that for a while, Tamar had been very vocal about how successful Kandi was becoming. Kandi's music career, her business ventures, her relationships, all of it made Tamar seethe. Kandi wasn't just sitting around waiting for drama to happen. She was busy making money moves and building her empire. And Tamar, well, it seemed like the only thing she was building was a pile of drama, but it didn't stop there. You know that feeling when you know something's about to explode, but you're waiting for that one little thing to set it off. That's exactly what happened next. Tamar and Kandi tried to patch things up after Celebrity Big Brother, but it was short-lived. Their peace didn't last long before the drama reignited in the most surprising way. Kandi had a falling out with Carlos King, a TV producer, when he tried to release a documentary about their story without permission. And guess who decided to jump in? Tamar. But not in the way you'd expect. Tamar sided with Carlos, defending him and calling Kandi out. That's when things took a strange turn, because Kandi hadn't even mentioned Carlos or anyone else in her response. But Tamar, out of nowhere, had something to say. Now, you might be wondering, why would Tamar do that? Why would she get involved in something that didn't even concern her? That's the part that had everyone talking. Was she really defending Carlos, or was this just her latest attempt to throw shade at Kandi? This is where it gets even more interesting. Tamar had been waiting for an opportunity to make Kandi look bad, and this was her moment. Tamar tried to make it look like Kandi had crossed the line, even though Kandi had done nothing to deserve it. The timing of all this couldn't have been more suspicious, and it made people wonder, was Tamar truly concerned, or was she just looking for any excuse to continue this long-running beef? It didn't end there. Things only escalated after Tamar appeared on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen. She made claims about being threatened by a Real Housewife of Atlanta cast member, And of course, Tamar didn't name names. But the very next day, she posted on social media claiming that it was Kandi and her husband Todd who had threatened her. Can you believe it? She went public with this. But once again, Kandi shot it down, saying Tamar was making it all up. Kandi denied the threat, stating that there was no truth to it. But Tamar, well, she didn't back down. But here's where things take a shocking turn. You'd think after all the public drama, both Tamar and Kandi would be tired of this back and forth, right? But nope, things only escalate further, and Tamar seems to be the one pushing the buttons. Let's talk about the infamous old lady gang incident. You won't believe it, but an old video of Tamar started circulating where she called Kandi's restaurant Old Lady Gang out for having bad food. And I'm not talking about a casual, offhand comment. Tamar went in saying the food was disgusting. This video resurfaced online, and it was like opening up a whole new can of worms. But here's the thing. Tamar tried to play it off by saying the video was old, like that somehow made it okay. The problem was the internet didn't care about the timing. The video had already gone viral, and Kandi wasn't having it. When Kandi was asked about it in an interview, she refused to even address it, calling Tamar a clown. She said, I'm not playing games with clowns. You're not going to bring that circus to me. Ouch. That's pretty much the equivalent of Kandi slamming the door on Tamar and saying, I'm done with this. But Tamar? She couldn't let it go. No way. Tamar fired back, saying the whole issue with Kandi was rooted in lies. She was furious, claiming she wouldn't be in this situation if Kandi hadn't lied on her. Now, I don't know about you, but it's hard to ignore the fact that Tamar always seems to play the victim in these situations. Whenever something goes wrong, it's always because she's been lied to, wronged, or misunderstood. And that's what she said about Kandi. Tamar was going off, insisting that the drama with Kandi had all started because of lies. She was convinced that if Kandi hadn't spread rumors about her, none of this would have ever happened. But here's where it gets even crazier. Jessie Woo, who has worked with both Tamar and Kandi, admitted something huge backstage at one of the shows. Jessie spilled the tea, saying that Tamar would constantly bring up Kandi's name to the hair and makeup people. She would talk about how Kandi was a mean person, but when anyone asked what the real issue was, Tamar couldn't give a straight answer. All she would do was complain about Kandi being this terrible person, but when it came to specifics, Tamar had nothing to say. This was a key moment in the whole feud. It revealed that Tamar's issue wasn't about something tangible. It was more like she just didn't like Kandi for reasons she couldn't even explain. And that's where the problem lies. It wasn't just the drama, it was the obsession. Tamar couldn't stop herself from constantly talking about Kandi. It's like she was almost trying to create a reason to hate her. And let's not forget the public accusations of Kandi being shady during their escape tour. Tamar kept saying that Kandi had something against her, but if there was one thing clear from Kandi's perspective, it was that Tamar was stirring up all this drama out of nowhere. This is where things really start to get deep. What makes this story different from other celebrity feuds is how much Tamar seems to latch onto this idea that Kandi is the enemy. But the truth is, Kandi didn't ask for this feud. She didn't go around looking for reasons to argue with Tamar. Kandi was simply trying to do her thing, work hard, take care of her family, and keep moving forward. Tamar, on the other hand, seems stuck in this loop, constantly trying to get a reaction out of Kandi. And it's not like Kandi was sitting back and letting Tamar's attack slide. No, Kandi started addressing the drama head on, and that only made things more intense. Now, let's talk about the craziest part of all this. After everything that's gone down, the feud between Tamar and Kandi continued to escalate. Even when it looked like things were cooling off, Tamar found a new way to keep the drama alive. The Watch What Happens Live moment. That was only the beginning. Tamar claimed that a Real Housewives of Atlanta cast member and her husband threatened her, and she even insinuated that Kandi was involved. Tamar didn't directly accuse Kandi, but the implication was clear. And that's when Kandi had to step up and shut it down. Kandi publicly denied everything. She denied threatening Tamar, she denied the accusations, and most importantly, she didn't let Tamar's words control the narrative. Tamar wasn't backing down, though, insisting that Kandi's husband Todd had indeed threatened her. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Tamar was making these claims, but no one was really buying them. Kandi wasn't having it, and neither were her fans. In fact, people started to question Tamar's motives. Was Tamar really the victim in all of this, or was she just playing the part to stay relevant? Tamar had been constantly dragging Kandi's name through the mud, but when Kandi finally spoke out, the truth seemed to land more on her side. You'd think by now, with all this drama out in the open, that Tamar might take a step back, right? That maybe she'd realize the public wasn't entirely on her side anymore. But instead, she went full steam ahead, almost like she needed this feud to stay alive. And this time, it wasn't just about Kandi. Tamar started dragging in other people, too. Like she was trying to build a case against Kandi by collecting anyone who had ever had a problem with her. One of the most unexpected names to get pulled into all this was Tiny, another member of Escape and one of Kandi's closest friends. Tamar began liking shady posts about Tiny and even hinted that she and Kandi both had mean girl energy. It was subtle, but it didn't go unnoticed. Fans started connecting the dots, and the message was clear. Tamar wasn't just mad at Kandi anymore. She was trying to take down the whole circle around her. But things started backfiring badly. Tamar posted a video where she cried on Instagram Live, saying she was tired of being misunderstood and mistreated. She said people always saw her as the problem, but never asked why she reacted the way she did. She said she had been hurt, pushed, and bullied behind the scenes, and that nobody wanted to hear her side of the story. At first, it looked like maybe people would rally around her, but that didn't last long. Viewers started noticing that every time Tamar said she wanted peace, she followed it up with more shady tweets, more interviews, throwing shots, and more energy that didn't match what she claimed to want. Kandi, on the other hand, remained calm. She wasn't doing Instagram lives or throwing shade on Twitter. She wasn't liking shady posts or calling out Tamar's friends. Instead, she stayed focused on her work, using her platform to uplift others, not tear them down. And that calm response, it started shifting the public perception even more. People saw the contrast between Kandi's silence and Tamar's noise. And slowly, the sympathy began to move. What Tamar didn't realize was that her constant talking, her constant drama, it was starting to exhaust people. Fans who used to support her were beginning to question her motives. And here's where the twist comes in. Out of nowhere, Tamar revealed something shocking. She said she had been blackballed from certain events and shows because of Kandi. She didn't show any proof, just said that industry people had stopped working with her after her drama with Kandi got out. She blamed Kandi for making calls behind the scenes and shutting doors on her opportunities. But the interesting part, those same events Tamar claimed she was being shut out of, Kandi hadn't even been a part of them. That's when people really started asking, is Tamar imagining things? Is she projecting her own struggles onto Kandi just because she needs someone to blame? Meanwhile, Kandi continued winning. She kept growing her businesses. She was still working with Escape, still making moves in the TV and film world, and her fans were loyal. She didn't need to fight back because her success was doing all the talking. Tamar, on the other hand, seemed stuck in the same loop, going live, doing interviews, talking about pain, but never moving forward. It's like she wanted healing, but refused to let go of the fire she kept feeding. And honestly, that's what made this whole feud feel less like a fight between equals and more like a one-sided obsession. But what really broke the internet was when Tamar started shading Kandi's voice. She called her overrated in an interview and said Kandi never had a strong voice, only a strong team. That was low. It wasn't about behavior or drama anymore. It was about talent, about legacy. And when you come for someone's legacy, it's personal. That hit different. People started calling out Tamar for being jealous. Some even said that Tamar only picked this fight because Kandi had something she didn't: respect, stability, and a brand that never needed controversy to shine. The more Tamar attacked, the more she revealed about herself, and it wasn't pretty. But don't get it twisted, Tamar wasn't completely alone. She still had supporters who believed she was telling the truth, who thought she had every right to speak her truth. They said she was brave for not staying silent. They said the industry was full of fake friendships, and Tamar was just calling it like she saw it. But even among those voices, the doubt had started to creep in, because at some point, it wasn't about speaking the truth anymore. It was about holding on to a feud that should have ended long ago. And yet, Tamar wasn't done. She hinted at releasing a song that would tell it all. A diss track, basically. A lot of people rolled their eyes, but secretly, everyone was curious. Was she really about to put all this into a track? Was she finally going to tell her side in full? Or was it just another attention grab? The anticipation was real, and the moment finally came. Tamar dropped the track she had been teasing for weeks. People rushed to hear it, expecting something explosive: names, secrets, raw emotion. But when it played, it was more of the same. Vague lines, indirect jabs, and a lot of pain wrapped in catchy melodies. There were no real revelations, no truth bombs, just more fuel for a fire that was already burning out. Listeners were split. Some said she poured her heart into it, that it was her way of healing. Others said it was tired, that she used the drama to sell music instead of closing a chapter. Kandi, of course, didn't respond. She didn't need to. That silence hit harder than any lyric ever could, because by now, everyone could see the difference between them. Kandi had mastered the art of moving on, while Tamar kept spinning in circles. People started realizing something important. It was never really about Kandi. This whole thing had more to do with Tamar's own struggles, her need to feel seen, heard, and maybe even loved. But when you fight everyone, even the ones who once rooted for you, eventually you end up alone. And that's what started happening. One by one, people Tamar used to laugh with, post with, sing with, they went quiet. Not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. No one wanted to be part of another episode. The industry moved on, fans moved on, even drama blogs started covering it less. The spotlight that once burned so bright on this feud began to dim. Tamar kept talking, but fewer people were listening. Behind the scenes, there were whispers that Tamar had tried reaching out to Kandi privately, hoping for a conversation that might bring closure. But by then, it was too late. The damage was done. Kandi didn't hold a grudge. She just didn't want the chaos back in her life. She had built too much, worked too hard, and healed too far to go back to old wounds. And in a way, that was the final blow. Not a fight, not a post, not a track, but the quiet decision to walk away for good. Months passed. Tamar went on to work on new projects, but the spark she once had in the public eye wasn't quite the same. She'd show up, but the energy was different. Maybe it was the weight of everything that had happened. Or maybe deep down, she was tired of the noise too. Kandi, meanwhile, continued to rise. More shows, more business wins, more respect. And she never once had to explain herself. Because the truth, it told itself. In the end, what started as a clash between two big personalities turned into a lesson. A reminder that fame can't fix broken relationships, and that silence can say more than any shout. Tamar's story wasn't just about Kandi. It was about pain, ego, pride, and the hard road to self-awareness. In Kandi's story, it was about grace, boundaries, and knowing when to protect your peace, even if it means letting someone go without getting the last word. And just like that, the feud that once lit up headlines faded into memory. But the way it played out, People wouldn't forget that anytime soon, not because of who screamed the loudest, but because of who stayed standing long after the noise was gone.